Welcome, boys and girls, to the Week 3 Gillcast. I'm Sammy Reid. I am joined by JoshADHD. Josh, how was the Sunday for you, buddy?
Today was a good day. Good day.
It's like I'm looking in the mirror, only it's the opposite. It's one of those like crazy. It's like one of those like circus mirrors where everything is distorted, and on your end things are good, and on my end, not so good, buddy. Not so good. Tell me about your day.
Yeah, so today was chalk avoidance day, and we did a good job avoiding the chalk, especially that donkey chalk at running back.
Wait, what you mean? What you mean we? You mean you?
Well, it's the royal we. The royal we. For sure, it's the royal we. So, yeah, we avoided that donkey chalk, and I think that's probably what made the biggest difference. And pretty heavy on the wide receivers that hit really hard, the cheap ones. So, can't complain. I was on the right side of variance today, I guess.
Well, let me tell you, bro. I did not avoid the donkey chalk, and I played some like donkey non-chalk. I mean, basically everything I did was super donkey. My process was bad. My plays were bad. I'm just like, I'm such a fish. And I wish that we had Nate Noling on the show, because he fished it really badly too. But, Nate's just avoiding the Gillcast. Like, he couldn't take the heat. But I can take it, buddy. I can take it. So here we are. Tell me a little bit about your process. I mean, first off, you know what? Screw your process. Let me tell you how tilted I am. First off, that Minnesota game just ruined my whole day, bro. Just ruined it. Like, Survivor pool, I'm in a wins league where Minnesota was my first pick. I had Diggs in an important fantasy league. I had Latavius, not just in cash, which was fine, but I had him in a ton of tournament lineups too. There was definitely chalk that I wasn't really sure about, specifically Corey Clement and Eric Ebron, that I did not play in any tournament lineups. And I thought those were good tournament fades, and indeed they were, but I rolled hard with Latavius. Man, that Minnesota game just ruined my whole day. I'm just like, I'm beside myself with tilt, man. How did you like stay away from this?
It just ended up being a price thing for me. And I decided to get out of all of those running backs in that, upper 5K, lower 6K range, except for Kareem Hunt. I got out of all of them and decided to do something different. And it turns out that outside of Gio Bernard, that was the right thing to do for the most part, because the rest of those guys stunk up the joint. And it's just, it was game script. I guess it was false perception about usage. It was a lot of things. And I don't know. I matrixed that shit.
All right. Well, tell me a little bit. Let's talk about our builds first off. I went with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. I paid up for him. What did you do at QB?
At QB, I centered my builds around Drew Brees, because I thought Drew Brees was at like the cheapest point he's been since I can remember.
And what was he priced at on DK?
He was 6,400 on DK.
That's solid. Okay.
So he might have gotten a little bit lower than that at some point last year, but given the way that they have been passing the ball to open the season, I just thought he was a slam dunk no-brainer at 6,400.
So I'm trying not to be results oriented, but I don't think I am here. I almost never pay up for quarterbacks in cash. In general, I just think it's a bad venture. You can definitely get, and talking DraftKings specifically, Mahomes was 7K. There was a bevy of guys around 6K, not just Drew Brees, but Matt Ryan, I think, was the play. Cam Newton was a really nice play. I like Deshaun Watson, and I like Patrick Mahomes. And I mean, I think even Watson did all right, and Mahomes did great. I mean, he had 3 passing touchdowns, 314 yards. But the reality is that it leads you to a whole different type of lineup construction. I'm not a guy that pays up at tight end, quarterback, or defense. And you can get away from that sometimes when the slate dictates it. But in general, that's not what I do. And I got away from that this week. And I went with Mahomes. He performed fine, but I think it was bad process.
I don't agree with it being bad process. I think the process really was okay. It's just if you're going to pay up for a quarterback like that, then you have to have a reasonable assumption that he has the probability of hitting 30 points much higher than the guys that are going to be just below him.
Right.
And
And Mahomes hit 28 and a quarter, which is great. But I just think that, getting those guys at 5,700 like Matt Ryan or $6,000 like Cam, I mean, they're not far off from Mahomes. Like, I kind of got swept up in that whole – and the other thing was I played Kareem Hunt in cash too. And so one of the things I wanted to do was play Mahomes and Hunt together and get a bunch of touchdowns. I did. I got 5 touchdowns out of them. Like, that's a high floor move in cash. But I don't think that was fish. I just don't think it was optimal.
Yeah, it wasn't optimal today because you had to make a decision somewhere else that probably screwed up your lineup. Unless
I made multiple decisions that screwed up my lineup. I mean, I think all my decisions screwed them up. So, yeah,
it's a tough one, bud.
It is. Okay, so you played Drew Brees, which was just fine. Drew Brees in a dome, usually a good thing. I played Mahomes. Okay. What did you do at running back here on DraftKings?
Yeah, so running back, I wanted to pair Brees up with Kamara, and so I did that. I paid up for Kamara, I paid the iron price, and then I paired him up with Nyheim Hines. And so that's the off the map, off the radar play. And I'm, in our text chat, Davis Maddock asked me pretty specifically, like, why I chose him. Why didn't I play Corey Clement?
I thought he asked you if you prefer salt water or fresh water.
Oh, no, if he said that, then I just totally skipped past it. And I don't know. I could defend my play pretty soundly, I think, and I'll do that right now. So I chose Nyheim Hines because I felt like Indianapolis was going to be in a very pass-heavy script the entire game. And the last time, 2 weeks ago, when they were in a pass-heavy script, Hines got 9 targets, and he caught 7 of those balls. So to me, I just saw this guy he was $3,600. There's no Marlon Mack to threaten his workload. And I felt like he was a very safe floor play at running back from a target perspective. And he was fine. He was 9.3 points. I'll take that for 3,600 all day long.
So what made you get away from Corey Clement? Because Clement was 3.8.
He was 43.
He was 43. Okay. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, that sounds right.
I think that's the right number because he was 35 last week. So I had a bad feeling about his script. I had a bad feeling about his usage based on what I've seen in the past. Last week when he played, he was forced into that usage because they didn't have another running back to stick in the game after Ajayi went down. They just didn't have the depth that they typically have. This week going into the game, obviously they had worked on getting Smallwood touches, getting him integrated into the offense for this week. And I just felt like even at 4,300, that there was a little bit of a false flag there for his usage and that he may not get these 20 touches that we all thought he was going to get. And it turns out they split up the work a lot more than we thought that they would. And Smallwood got the touchdown. Clement didn't. So it just didn't work out.
I really, as the week wore on, I really started feeling bad about Clement. And it just like, I already had him in my lineup and it just worked and I liked everything else. And I was like, well, it's not going to hurt that bad if he busts because everybody else is going to have him too. And I think there's some merit to that in cash games. In tournaments, obviously that's a situation that you want to fade it. But in cash games, I think that's fine thinking. But on the other hand, like sometimes you shouldn't care. Like in cash, you're just trying to make the most optimal lineup you can. And if Corey Clement isn't part of the most optimal lineup you can make, you shouldn't play him just because everybody else is playing him. And I mean, usage-wise, he was fine. Like he got 16 rushes, he got 4 targets and 3 catches. So he had 19 touches. He had 75 total yards and 3 catches. Like it was fine. It was just fine. I'm looking at the $25 Giant single entry double up. Mm-hmm. He was 64% owned. So 2 out of every 3 people played him. Super chalky. So I don't think that was bad. I don't think it was great. But he was definitely a tournament fade. And I think it's one of those things where I didn't play him in a single other tournament lineup. And if you don't believe in a guy to that point, maybe you shouldn't play him in cash.
I agree with that 100%. That's why I got out of him.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel it.
Okay, the guy I did believe in, Latavius Murray. I mean, he just got his day pooped on right from the very beginning. I heard from a friend, so I don't know if this is accurate, that this was the biggest upset point spread wise in 23 years.
I believe it.
Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that, but I mean, as soon as you see a 17-point spread go up in smoke like that, you think it has to be, because that spread doesn't happen very often.
I mean, I know I haven't been this upset in about 23 years, so that all really makes sense. Latavius Murray, 8.1 fantasy points. He had 35 yards and 1 catch. I mean, I believed in this. Like, I thought he was just going to get a crap load of usage, and this game just, like, wrecked my whole day, bro. It was so bad.
Not just you, man. It probably wrecked like 90% of the fantasy landscapes day. Everybody this is the NFL, man. It's just nothing is certain. Nothing is ever certain.
Well, of course.
We never keep that in mind for the most part.
I mean, in tournaments, you should always keep it in mind. In cash, you're just going for the most likely scenario. You know, you're not trying to take advantage. You're not trying to be anti-fragile in cash. But Latavius Murray, 45.3% owned in the giant $25 single entry double up. So, yeah, a lot of people were on that. But
I would want to look at stack ownership in cash. Like who had Murray and Clement? Because that was probably the most popular running back combination this week.
I did.
So, I mean, I would guess it's probably a third of the field that had that stack at running back.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds about right. Okay. So receiver wise, what did you do at receiver? I'm interested in this.
So receiver. Yeah. I mean, I chased Julio this week. I just thought I thought he was going to just be a super awesome floor play, and he was fine. Like he got 14.6 points. That's okay. You know,
if he gets 4 more yards for the bonus, like it's a whole different story.
Yeah, that would have helped too, those extra 3 points. And then at the other 2 spots, I went with Robert Woods and Geronimo Allison. And I guess I should open this up to say that I ran 2 cash lineups this week because there were some plays that I liked that required different roster constructions. And so I just built two different lineups. But I'm talking about my main lineup this week that I ran in more of the contest. So I had Robert Woods and Geronimo Allison along with Julio. And then I ran Keenan Allen in the flex.
Interesting.
Because I thought Keenan Allen was a really good floor play. It turned out that the Rams had a plan for him, even though he was in the slot, and they defended the hell out of him. And kudos to them.
Yeah, their boundary corners are good.
Yes.
And so you want to attack them more on the inside. So I actually think that made sense, even though he wasn't really in my consideration this week.
Yeah, I mean, the super sharp play would have been to ride Mike Williams, because Mike Williams was the guy that they were probably going to pay the least amount of attention to that runs slot routes like Keenan Allen does. But that's probably some hindsight, rosy outlook stuff that's going on there with me too, thinking, I could have tweaked a little bit. So I'm not unhappy with the wide receiver, especially Robert Woods. I mean, Robert Woods was an air yard darling. He was very, very popular in Josh Hermsmeyer's air yards model going into this week as a guy that should pop anytime soon, and he damn sure popped. So if you had him, you probably won some money this week.
I mean, really the only thing that saved my week from like just being a complete tire fire is that I did pretty good in GPPs to like not lose 100% of my money. So that was nice. And Robert Woods was a big reason why. Same deal. Like you said, he's just popping in the air yards model. The guy's a really good player. And I had a decent amount of him in tournaments.
Did you play Tyler Boyd?
No, I didn't play Tyler Boyd. So let's just get down to what I did at
You opted out.
Yeah, I really wish I had Nate here just to back me up, It's the strength of 2 fish as opposed to 1 solo fish. But you know what? I'll just wear it. So what I did at receiver, I went with Julio, who, I mean, he basically just did Julio things. 80 points were scored in this game. He scored 0 of them. So that's pretty par for the course. Good job, Julio. You suck. Michael Thomas was the other guy I played. And
I love that play. It was just so damn expensive this week.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was one of those deals where at running back I went Clement and Murray and then also Kareem Hunt. Let's actually rewind for a second because I need to spend some time on my third receiver play. Let's talk about Kareem Hunt. There were a lot of people. So I had a very busy day. I was in San Diego and I traveled back, but so I wasn't spending a lot of time on social media. But I did click into Twitter. And I did see a lot of people saying, "Oh, you played Kareem Hunt, you're a luck box. Like, that was a stupid play, and you just like ran good to get 2 touchdowns. Like, oh yeah, you're so smart. You knew he was going to get, two goal line rushes. People were going to go down at the 1 yard line. Like you ran so good." And my opinion is that is high level poppycock. Okay.
Agree.
Kareem Hunt was the running back on like the team with the highest implied total as a strong home favorite. Like that's actually what happens in those situations is that guys there score touchdowns. That is actually how it works.
Stupidly low.
Yeah, $6,000. I just thought I thought Hunt was a sharp play. And one of the knocks on Hunt is that he hasn't been involved in the passing game, right?
At all.
He had 1 reception through the first 2 weeks. Of course, it was against the Steelers, so he turned it into a touchdown because that's what happens when you catch balls against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's pretty standard, right? It's just like magic. Like a leprechaun comes out and sprinkles some fairy dust on you. He's like, "Oh, here you go. Here's a touchdown, buddy." And
it's
that's
the ghost of Ryan Shazier.
Yeah. Oh my God, poor guy. And they're feeling him. But I thought Kareem Hunt was a great play at $6,000. And he was not involved in the passing game at all today. And so I was a little hesitant to say, okay, we've seen 2 games that he really hasn't been involved in the passing game, but he was involved plenty last year. I'm not quite ready to say, oh, he's just not going to be involved, right?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% on that. Obviously, it's trending downwards. He wasn't involved today, so that's another data point. But, give me your opinion about Hunt.
No, I think I had the exact same opinion that he's on this high-powered offense. His regression to the mean as the main running back in the offense, he's going to get some points. He's going to score some touchdowns. It has to happen. I thought that $6,000. I thought it was again kind of like Drew Brees. As these player prices start to kind of bottom out, that's when you need to play them if you think that they have an elite ceiling. So I liked Hunt. One thing we can say about Hunt is his usage in the passing game this year has been consistent.
Yes.
The problem is that's 1 target a week.
Consistently non-existent.
Yes. So will that change? I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that he's I don't say a victim, but he gets to ride along with a mobile quarterback, and mobile quarterbacks tend not to throw to the running back. That's kind of how it is. I know Brian Malone has done some work on that in the past, and it's pretty consistent across mobile quarterbacks. They just don't target the running backs as much. So
yeah,
I don't know. Do you chase that dragon going forward? I don't know. I guess it depends on the cost.
It depends on the cost and the spread and the venue. It's all situation, right? It's all situation. Yep. But I stand by that play. I'll do it again. $6,000 for Kareem Hunt is a home favorite.
Totally.
49ers. Let's go. Okay. So receiver, I went Julio and Michael Thomas. And my big stand of the week, Josh, this was my stand that I took. And I went down in flames for this one. Just straight flames. Incendiary take is that Corey Davis was my guy. Corey Davis against the Jacksonville Jaguars for 4.4 was my guy. And I was like, screw Tyler Boyd. He's a scrub. I'm just going Corey Davis. I'm going to win all the money. And, that was just – you ever see a movie where, the helicopter, something gets in the propeller and it, flips around, it turns, and then it finally crashes, goes up in, this great ball of fire? That was me today with Corey Davis.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I'm such a fish. So let me give you my reasoning, and then I want you to tell me why I'm a fish, because I know I am. But as a fish with a very small brain, it's very hard for me to be like self-aware. And,
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So my thinking was this, right? Corey Davis coming into this game had a .81 weighted opportunity rating. And that's an airyards.com metric, which basically combines air yard share and target share. .81 for Corey Davis, .82 for Michael Thomas. They basically, through 2 games, had the same weighted opportunity rating, only Corey Davis was 4.4. He was half the price. And yes, he's facing Jacksonville. And yes, Jacksonville has a great pass defense. But I was like, look, they don't have anybody else to throw to. I still think he gets 8 to 10 targets. And for that price, I don't care who he's playing. And look, Jacksonville's got a great defensive backfield, but they allowed 111 yards to OBJ week 1. They allowed 2 touchdowns to Chris Hogan in week 2. Like, just because they were so great last year doesn't mean they are that great this year. They might still be very good, but things change quickly. I'm not ready to, like, anoint them. And I was just like, dude, Corey Davis is lit AF. And he was not lit AF. Josh, tell me why this was a bad idea, because I know it was. I just don't know why.
I thought about him, this week. As soon as I saw the price, I knew he was going to get the Jacksonville price cut. And I saw 4,400. I was like, I'm going to put him on my list, and I'm going to have to think about him really hard. And I got out of him because I was not sure if Mariota was going to play. That was issue number 1 for me. If Mariota doesn't play, I'm not playing him with Blaine Gabbert. And then issue number 2 was I envisioned a close game scenario between these 2 teams, not the one they had today that was this low scoring drudgery. But I thought that these, both teams can maybe kind of squabble near to 20 points. And I thought in a close game like that his target volume may be pretty low. Like, I'm going to say low, but like 6 or 7. And I thought that I could do better around him at that target volume. So I ended up getting out of him because I liked Tyler Boyd more. I liked Geronimo Allison a whole lot more based on the game scripts that I thought those guys were going to be facing. And I just ended up Corey Davis didn't work out for me this week. I just didn't see enough floor for him to go chase after him. So I'm a bit surprised you played him, Sammy. I really am, because we put some stuff up in our text chat this week, and Nate put his lineup in there that had Corey Davis in it. And that was my first question was, you're going to play Corey Davis? Like, seriously, you're smarter than this.
Well, first off, you're 100% wrong about that. And second off, I was in solidarity with Nate Noling. Nate was 100% Corey Davis, and so was I. And I'm like, buddy, you and I is going to be rich. Monday morning, we're going to wake up, we're going to look at our DraftKings accounts, and it's just going to say full. And it's going to be awesome. And it didn't work out like that because Corey Davis had 3 targets.
Yep.
2 receptions. So me and Davis and Nate went back and forth on this. I really wish Davis and Nate were on the show because, Davis just wrecked Nate on this take. Davis was like, bro, you have to play Tyler Boyd. Like, Boyd is it's such a better play. And Nate was like, no, bro, like, I'll bet you in. They're like starting to make Bitcoin bets on it and stuff. Like, I really wish we had this. But Tyler Boyd straight smashed. Just smashed today, bro. And I think part of that was AJ Green going out. But Boyd was having a pretty decent game even before that point.
He did a lot of his damage before AJ Green went out.
Yeah, I think he scored the touchdown before that. He ended up with 6 for $132 and a touchdown. So, yep. By my math, that's 25. That's 28.2. I have to calculate it manually because I can't look at my lineup and just see the number because he wasn't in my lineup, you see.
Yeah, so I pulled up the lineup that I had him in. He's 28-7.
28-7.
Because he got a rushing attempt for 5 yards.
Oh, yeah. I missed that. Yeah, that's good. They involved him on the ground, too.
A little gravy.
That's really excellent. That makes me so happy. I can't even tell you. But Tyler Boyd smashed, bro. And I just didn't really believe. Like, he had one good game, Like,
He did. He had one good game, but the thing is, and this is what surprises me about Nate and the take that he had about the Whopper, because Boyd's Whopper is not as high, but his target volume in offense has been immense. Like it's AJ Green, it's Tyler Boyd, and then it's nothing else, pretty much.
Yeah, Ross has not been that involved as we thought.
Ross is non-existent, and
he did get 7 targets today.
He got 7 targets today because AJ Green went out of the game, and they were chucking, trying to catch up. So, but you'll see. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see the replay of the long ball that John Ross basically quit on because he wasn't giving a damn about the route as he ran it, and ended up being picked off. So I think his days are probably numbered again in that offense, where they're probably not going to play him. So it's going to be Tyler Boyd show if AJ Green misses any time.
Well, I played Corey Davis over John Ross. I did pay $700 more in salary for the privilege of doing that. And
Tyler Boyd, right? You didn't play John Ross, I hope.
Oh no, John Ross. I can't even tell them apart. I mean, John Ross basically would have been as good of a play as Corey Davis. He got 7 targets to Davis's 3. So
this is true.
Yeah. So bottom line is, I mean, I breathe through gills, and I mean, when I die, I'm going to float upside down, belly up, and that's going to be the end of me. I mean, this was so bad. I played Corey Davis in cash. You know what his percentage was in this $25 double up? Take a guess.
I would guess it's probably under 2%.
That is correct. 0.5%.
You were the only person. You and Nate were the only people that played.
How many people?
Corey Davis.
That's it. It's just me and Nate.
You and Nate.
1 out of every 200 people decided this was a good idea, and I was one of them. I'm just so bad. I'm just so bad. I mean,
those are guys dropping their tournament lineups in cash.
Oh my God. I mean, I had him all over in tournaments too, which probably didn't.
I think he's a fine tournament play.
He was a great tournament play. Amazing tournament play. In cash, like, this was really bad, and I should feel bad.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll recover. I mean, I used Peyton Barber in cash last week at running back, and
I remember that.
I got to defend that take, so it's okay. It happens. Yeah, that fish died, and they flushed it down the toilet and replaced it with this fish.
It just hurts. It's one of those things. Like, I had a great first 2 weeks. Week 1 and week 2 were, a great time around the Sammy household. And I was just flying high. And I was like, dude, everything I touch turns to gold. Corey Davis, Shazam. It didn't work out. Tell me.
Not so much.
All right. So I feel better now that I've gotten that out. So thank you. It's very cathartic. What did you do at tight end? Did you eat tight end?
Yeah, I didn't get too chalky at tight end. I played I split my lineups. I had half Kittle and I had half Jared Cook. So I didn't play the Ebron donkey chalk once he became available.
Yeah. Ebron was definitely a bad play. He ran extremely well at the end of the game to get to 8.3 DraftKings points. I mean, this is just what Ebron does. And yes. I knew he was bad chalk too. And Davis had tweeted out something earlier in the day how Indianapolis really considers Ebron's position and Doyle's position different positions, right? Mm-hmm. You have the inline tight end and the move tight end. And Ebron didn't step into Doyle's role, right, as the inline guy. And he was just doing Ebron things. And, he dropped, 1 or 2 touchdowns, which is fairly Ebron-ish. And, he had 33 yards, Ebron-ish. And he was 64% owned. And it was just – he just fit.
That number –
fine, but, yeah.
That number amazes me, 64%. That blows me away. I felt there were so many other better plays around him, even once he became available. You had Hooper at 2,900. And Hooper was probably, fairly highly owned. And he was in one of the highest total games of the week, and he's been used. I mean, they're giving him consistent 5-6 targets a game. I thought he was a really safe floor play, and he did fine. And then I decided to go Cook because Miami, at least up until maybe until very recently, Miami's been kind of a flowchart team for tight ends. Wasn't
Rashad Jones out?
I believe that's true. Yes, I think so. and they just kind of give it up to tight end. And, for what you had to pay for Jared Cook, it was $4K. I thought he did fine. He got 8 points. I mean, tight end is a nuclear holocaust zone right now. You could barely ever get tight end right, even if you pay up.
Yeah. So in general, you just want to take the tight ends that are getting some volume in like high team total games. And that was not Ebron. I knew it was bad. Ebron, again, a guy I played in cash. I played 0% in tournaments, 0%. And at some point you're like, hey, if I don't think this guy has any viability as a play, like I should not be playing him in cash. And I did. And that was fishy too.
Yeah. That surprises me, Sammy. That surprises me, man. It's okay. It's okay. You were out of town. It was just you weren't in your comfort zone.
I mean, I'm not joking you. I kind of was. So I write the read option for RotoGrinders, and so I was at this work conference down in Newport, which is, for people who don't know California, it's like Orange County. We're staying at this swanky hotel, and we have to do like from 7:30 to 5. We're doing like a conference and like, doing all this stuff. And then afterwards, we have to go out and like do like team building activities. So like one night we like go out on a boat, and we're like doing a scavenger hunt in the Newport Harbor, and it's great, it's fun. But like, I didn't want to do that stuff. I just want to go back to my hotel room and chill. I don't want to hang out with my coworkers. Like, I just hung out with y'all for 9 hours. Like, I like you guys, but I don't like anybody that much. I don't want to. But bottom line is, I barely had enough time to like write my column. I was doing all this work. Then I went to San Diego afterwards, and I'm like hanging out with my friends, and like, we're out, we're drinking. I probably smoked way too much Pineapple Express. Like, this whole weekend was just a disaster, and it really showed in my lineups. Like, I was not focused. That's true.
It's okay, man. It happens to the best of us. It really does. Like, this was one of the few weeks where I set my lineup pretty much like Friday afternoon and didn't look at it again. I didn't tinker, and it was
that's awesome.
That's rare for me, because I'm always jacking around with my lineup and making bad decisions right at the end of the submission time. So I didn't do that this week. It kind of worked out.
That's good, because I actually have done a really in-depth multiple studies on this, and it turns out that 94.1% of Sunday morning swaps don't work out. Yeah, it's science, it's math. So
yeah,
that was smart.
Yeah. What's your study group? Is it just like you and Nate and Davis and me?
No, yeah, it was just me actually.
That's a robust study.
Yeah. Well, I'm the only one I care about. So, what did you do at defense here?
Yeah, so defense, I with my split lineups, I ran Jaguars in one because I thought they were a slam dunk defense, and it was okay. Like, it wasn't a total tire fire. And then on my other roster, I ran the Cardinals because they were dirt cheap playing at home, and I think Mitchell Trubisky is a disaster at a quarterback. So
that is correct, actually.
So I just and both of them turned out okay. I can't complain. Like, we didn't have any blowout games out of a defense this week, which is, it kind of saves everybody's bacon, because it didn't really matter who you played. You just kind of got, you kind of got a 2X for the most part out of everybody, except for the donkeys that played Dallas on the road.
Yeah, that was just straight bad. I'm sorry, if you played Dallas, that was actually bad.
You got what you deserved.
Yeah,
playing Dallas defense on the road in Seattle.
In Seattle, like, I know Seattle's looked bad, but that team has shown it's a different team at home. And
totally.
And Dallas, I mean, that defense is not that good. Like, they have DeMarcus Lawrence, who can rush the passer. That's really it. Like, what else on that defense are you like,
there's nothing that makes you quake in your boots. And Sean Lee was dinged up.
Yeah, he's always dinged up.
He's always dinged up. And he missed some game time today. And that's when Seattle was able to really run the ball, was when he is out of the game. So it's just, I don't know. That's a bad process there. We're using Dallas really anywhere, but especially on the road. Yeah, that was fairly hopeless. I ended up using the Chiefs. And that's very interesting. It was interesting. So last week I used the Bucks at home against Philly for like 21 or 2,200, and they had a great game. They did. This week I used the Chiefs. They didn't do that great. They pulled off 4 sacks. They had 4 points.
for 2,200 or 2,100. They were basically like a defense. I don't think the Chiefs defense is good, but they were a big ass home favorite, and they were like just over the minimum. And I was like, look, the rest of my lineup is fire. I got Mahomes and Hunt to get all the Chiefs touchdowns. I got Jones and Thomas in that shootout. I got Corey Davis, who's going to light the world on fire. Like, I can afford to punt defense because my original lineup had Minnesota in it. So, God, if you played Minnesota,
out of that.
Yeah, I'm glad I got out of that, but like it didn't really matter because my lineup was bad. Minnesota defense, but I wrote them up in the read option. I was like, look, I'm here to tell you. You don't need me to tell you that Minnesota is a really good play this week. I'm just telling you it's okay to pay up. I told people that, and I feel bad about that because
you're not the only person that told people that, though. That's not. I mean, it's in hindsight, you would make that call 100 times out of 100.
I would.
Because the game that happened today happens one time in 100 games, like literally 1 in 100 games. So
it's true.
It was fine. The one thing I found interesting, though, is that with all this concentration of ownership around Minnesota, why didn't more people just bump down to Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Jacksonville was $4,000. And
Jacksonville was a great play.
The giant $5 double up right now, they were under 4% owned.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I was shocked by that. I couldn't believe that number.
Can you see what Minnesota was?
I did not see that number.
All you have to do is scroll down to the bottom, like the last place teams.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and just pick some of those, and they're going to have the Minnesota defense and Latavius Murray.
Okay, Minnesota, surprisingly, in the same giant double up was 13%. So everybody else must have been on either Dallas or Arizona would be my guess, because they seem to be the most popular plays this week.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, I can't even hate on the people who played Dallas. I played Corey Davis in cash.
Yeah, here we go. Dallas, 32% owned.
Oh, yeah, no way.
Yes.
Dude. I mean, so like I said, I was out of town, so I wasn't really I didn't have my finger on the pulse, but they must have been popping in models, or one of the big sites was pumping them out as a good play. I didn't even consider them.
Yeah, a couple of the models I look at, that they were very highly ranked. And again, I just scratched my head and I was like, that's highly suspect.
Yeah, that's so dubious, bro. That's so dubious. Well, I'll tell you, it feels good to let this out. Just how bad this was. It's just the good times couldn't last forever. Let's wrap this thing up, Josh, with a couple of our takeaways from the day. I don't have too many because I was in San Diego. I did watch the morning games, and then I drove back up to the Bay, so I didn't see the afternoon games. I didn't see a lot of highlights, so I'm flying a little blind, but still, a couple takeaways. What do you got here?
Yeah, so for me, the one thing that I see right now is that you could pretty much you could almost stack the Rams offense every week right now.
Yes.
All of their wide receivers, even Gurley, Goff. I mean, you just shove them all in a lineup, and it's kind of like Kansas City, the same thing. I mean, there's just this totally dominant, diverse offense, and everybody gets a piece. Everybody gets a piece. So that's something I took away from today. Actually, in my tournament lineup this week, I ran a full Ram stack and ran it back with a couple of Chargers just because I thought that game would go ham, and it kind of almost did. It got close. So I like that. To see if there's anything else. The Dolphins, I think the Dolphins might be paper lions. I don't know if they're really for real, but I think they've just kind of had luck of the draw so far. But they're winning the games that are put in front of them, and they don't look too bad. They don't look too bad. They keep, they have a pretty good deep ball offense, it looks like, because they got 3 deep pass touchdowns today. So I think we may need to look at Ryan Tannehill a little bit more seriously as a cash game consideration if we think that offense is going to have to score some points to stay in a game.
Yeah, and they missed Stills on another one from what I heard.
Yep.
So let's talk about the Patriots for a second. I know they were not on the main slate, but I mean, they just wet the bed in this night game. 7-point favorites on the road, and they got handled by 16 points by the Lions. Never got anything going. Tom Brady threw for $133. I mean, no Patriots receiver went over 51 yards. This was really bad. Did you watch any of that game?
I watched some of the game, and it looked to me like Matt Patricia just did a number on them from a coverage perspective.
That's so wild that happened.
I know, right? So it just looked like maybe like this was like his Super Bowl, right? He wanted to go beat Daddy.
Yeah.
And he beat Daddy. So it just looked like they had all the routes covered, and that New England didn't really have this game-breaking receiver that was dressed for the game that could come in and kind of just, break that defense.
Oh, you mean the GOAT
next week? Yeah.
You mean the GOAT, Josh Gordon? Yeah.
Yes.
My Chris Hogan shares are looking super suspect right now, bro.
I think they're fine. I think they'll be just fine. That team will figure it out. They always seem to figure it out. It just takes them 8 weeks, and they'll get by for 8 weeks, and all of a sudden the thing is going to be humming, and we'll act like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because they have not looked good kind of all season, but last year they started off 2-2. Remember, they got run in the first game of the year. KC went in and put hands on them in their house. Yeah. And so, we've seen this out of the Patriots before, where it takes them a while to get acclimated, figure out what's going on, how people are playing them, et cetera, how roles are going to be defined, the kind of division of labor, all that stuff. So I'm not ready to write them off, but it's definitely, I don't know, who do they play next week? I want to know if I can stack them up.
They play the Dolphins at home.
Oh yeah, let's go. I'm stacking the Pats, baby. Woohoo!
It feels like a Pats defense kind of week, to be honest, because I feel like they could just totally take advantage of Ryan Tannehill at home.
Well, I mean, maybe we'll play Tannehill in cash, though. Yeah, just in case.
We might do that. We might do that.
What else? I mean, Tennessee's just a dumpster fire. I just that whole team is bad. It's really bad. What's your take on Green Bay right now? Aaron Rodgers, obviously limited. He's still putting up points and yards. They had a really even split with their backfields. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams and Tymont, they all kind of split it somewhat evenly, looking at snaps and targets and rushes, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, what I take away from that is Washington has an excellent pass rush. They can disrupt the pocket. So when, you take away the ability for Rodgers to run anywhere, he's kind of a sitting target. So yeah. I think this is just more of a I just think it's more of a matchup issue than anything else that they got beat this week. They had plenty of production. Rodgers, his efficiency stunk today. It stunk to high heaven. He only had 265 yards on 44 attempts. So that kind of tells you that.
And one of them was that deep bomb to Allison on the blown coverage.
Yes. So, but thank God for that thing, because he was in my cash lineup. So. Real quick. I'm going to go back to the Lions really quick, because
pumped.
Kerryon Johnson got a lot of work tonight.
He did,
and I think a lot of that was maybe because they had the lead, but he split the carries very evenly with LeGarrette Blount. I think he's starting to take that job over. And so going forward, especially if we think that Detroit is going to have positive game script, I think we need to look at Kerryon Johnson as a cash game play, depending on his price. If he's in the fives, I think he's going to be a really solid consideration.
Yeah. I'll throw out one kind of game theory thing that I don't want to say we learned, but I think has really been highlighted over, frankly, the last couple weeks, is that when you have a game you believe in that's going to score a lot of points, say New Orleans and Atlanta today, or last week Steelers and Kansas City specifically, those were games you can be contrarian and still get exposure to those games by really stacking up on those secondary players, right? And last week we saw Conley score, and we saw Jesse James get a bunch of points. And, in today's game, we saw Calvin Ridley. I had one decent tournament cash because of him, right? I didn't play him widely, but it's one of those things where you can start taking some of the secondary options. And if those games are shootouts, you can be contrarian, still getting exposure to that game, while fading guys like Julio Jones, which is like just always a really sharp idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was kind of how I ended up building my roster this week, I think, is just doing some contrarian stuff like playing Robert Woods and playing Geronimo Allison and getting away and, playing Nyheim Hines. Like, I think on the surface, Nyheim Hines is a fish play. But as you work through and tell the story of how a $3,600 running back can get 9 or 10 targets in a game, if the game script is right, which it should be. I mean, they're playing the world champion Eagles on the road. Then I think you can tell some stories where these satellite players, these ancillary players that are cheaper can perform for your roster and allow you to do a lot of other useful things with your money, like pay for Michael Thomas and pay for Patrick Mahomes. So something to consider.
I hear you. Last thing, and this is not a new thing either, but Atlanta against running backs. And I know game script, but 14 receptions for Christian McCaffrey last week, 15 receptions for Alvin Kamara this week. And guess who they play next week? Do you know?
No, you're going to have to tell me.
Giovanni Bernard.
Oh, that's beautiful.
At Atlanta. He's 6.3 on DraftKings, so he has been priced accordingly, but
the only problem is that Mixon is probably going to be back.
That can't be true. I don't believe that.
That was the report this morning, was Mixon was likely to play in week 4.
I'll believe it when I see it, but
yeah, for sure. But if Mixon plays in week 4, who we should probably be rostering is Joe Mixon. It's for the exact same reason.
Hey, Mixon's only 6.4. Don't threaten me with a good time.
I know, right?
Whoever's in there, I'm just saving that spot. We're gonna make that happen.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, buddy. This was very cathartic for me. This was good to get all this stuff off my chest. Thank you for doing this, even though my other fishy friends were not here for me. Davis and Nate, you were, and I appreciate that about you.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
All right, you guys, follow Josh on Twitter. He's at FantasyADHD. You can follow me on Twitter at Sammy Reid FI. Thank you for tuning in to the Week 3 Gillcast, and we will talk to you guys next week.